current area, it's from Assam to Afghanistan, is an area which we call the subcontinent. 20+% of the world's GDP came from there. I mean, I'm not the one saying this is how facts are. Today, that region that was then the subcontinent, which we now classify as the South Asia region, does less than 5% of the world's total trade. And a part of that is because the intra-regional trade got lost. Fast forward now to Cold War, end of Cold War, fall of Berlin Wall. Until that happened, this entire region was actually looked upon very favorably as the sort of ground where wars took place, trade did not.
The method that we followed was that we looked at the overall trade context. We looked at who Pakistan imports and exports with, and then what could be the potential in the future. So we had a team of experts who were looking at different parts.
So we used a metric which we decided to work with PREIA and DI and USAID on, is to basically look at highest impact, right, and easy to do.
Specifically, the study that we conducted, looking at the transit and trade requirements, infrastructure requirements for Pakistan for the next 40 years. Our particular focus was on A, how important it will be as a driver of growth for the general economy, and B, what are those sources of growth?
We basically interviewed a lot of people from high level to low level. We did some basic modeling around this. End of the day, we looked at what trade could happen.
There are international models, the gravity model, which tell us what the potential is to trade with your neighboring countries. And those models tell us that the biggest opportunity that exists for Pakistan today is trade with its neighbors, both on the eastern front, which is India, but also with the Central Asian states. So, the quantum of impact it might have on your economy is as large as 1.5% of GDP to 2% of GDP.
The further you trade, right, what is it? The total logistics cost of going there, getting there, both tariff-based and non-tariff-based, both outside the border, at the border, and behind the border, they all increase.
Our tariffs are the highest in the world at this stage. That's an area on which there should be a focus.
When you want to bring in private sector, we also have to understand that they are profit oriented. So it's all about incentives, whether you incentivize them in a way, if you're not incentivizing them with profits, then it should be maybe some kind of non-fiscal incentive that makes a business case. So we have to build a business case for these things.
So the thing is, the infrastructure investment comes after the demand comes.
Unless you fix things in the real economy, so if the processes are still complex or the documentation required is still complex, then tech cannot do much, or digitalization or IT-based solutions can only achieve so much.
For trade to happen, volumes and demands and complementarities and the whole supply chain needs to make sense for traders.
And similarly with financing, for example, unless and until you create a good investment climate and a good regulatory system that supports trade and supports business, financing also cannot do much.
Look at Bangladesh, we look at Vietnam. All of these countries have benefited enormously by liberalizing the trade regime, which means lower duties on imports and other taxation measures.
Fundamental to understand is the question is wrong, what can we export? The question is, let trade flow, let people flow. They will decide what can be exported and imported. And
that's an area where we see Pakistan has a lot of potential.
It has to be leadership and political will from the very top. They are convinced that yes, we have to improve trade, we have to improve our policies, we have to make sure that we have a conducive regulatory environment, then that has to be done consistently. This positivity has to stay consistent over a long period of time for this to result in any benefits.
I think if these corrective measures take place, we will see in the very near term things start picking up.